Chicken tacos should only be trusted to chicken professionals.
That's where we come in. Introducing Zaxby's new chicken finger tacos. One comes with pico de gallo and creamy chipotle ranch. And the other comes with bacon, lettuce, tomato, and avocado ranch. Chicken experts since 1990. Chicken taco experts since now. Order yours today in the Zax Rewards app. Woo, saucy! Zaxby's.
You're listening to the Archaeology Podcast Network.
You're listening to the Archaeology Show. TAS goes behind the headlines to bring you the real stories about archaeology and the history around us. Welcome to the podcast. Hello and welcome to the Archaeology Show, episode 162. Today we present the first of our live variety show episodes. They're going to be every other Wednesday at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern. Check out the schedule and sign up for these free shows at culturamedia.com. The audio is a little funky on this one, and it's a bit longer than usual. Enjoy!
Hey everybody, and welcome to the Archaeology Variety Show. The Archaeology Show Variety Show. The Archaeology Variety Live Show. We don't have a name.
A variety type of archaeology show.
That's right. And since we don't have multiple cameras, we're going to be moving that a few times.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we'll work on it. We'll work on a better presentation, but...
Well, and we can probably chill for a couple minutes while we wait for people to come in.
Yeah, well, that's what we're going to do. So we've got a number of segments to, entertain you with and educate you with today, including an interview coming up. And this isn't like other shows on the APN. Anytime I've done an interview on the APN, it's always been the full hour, right? So we're just going to bring Carlton, one of the hosts of the Life and Ruins podcast, in for, about 20 minutes. He's going to participate in an interview, and then we're going to play a little game afterwards, which you guys can participate in as well. Right now, a little bit of navigation, and we'll mention this throughout. Sorry for those of you that are listening to this on the podcast, but this is probably the last time it'll be audio only on the podcast. If you want to hear these after they were done, it's on your member pages. Yeah. So if you go to ArchPodNet.com/members, you can see what our membership system is all about. $7.99 a month, you save 25% if you get it for the year.
Yeah, and you'll be able to watch the replay of this, so you get the full video experience, or you can listen to the audio as well. We're going to have both options.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So we will have that for everybody available there. But again, for the people on audio, sorry about this. And people listening in the future, again, sorry about this. But for everybody who's live with us right now, thanks for showing up.
Yeah.
We've got some things to navigate on the screen here. On the right-hand side is the chat, where you can it's an open chat. Everybody can see it, but it's a chat right there. If you have a question, a specific question, then use the ask a question down on the bottom, and then everybody else can click on that and vote up your question, basically. I hope to get to a lot of questions, but that's the whole point of an interactive engagement platform. But if we, for some reason, can't get to all the questions, we're going to hopefully cover the most voted ones first, right?
Yeah, totally.
That just helps prioritize them. There's also polls. I put one in there just for fun to see how people heard about this show. And I'm interested in that. And I don't know if there's any other choices there. I don't even know if you can add choices, but I can. I don't know if anybody else can. But anyway, just tell us how you found that. We may or may not use that a little bit more. So anyway, where are we right now?
Yeah, so we are in San Luis Obispo, California. Parked in so for those who don't know, we live in our RV, and that is the background that you're seeing here. This is our dinette space that we have in the RV, and it also doubles as our office, and for these live shows it's going to double as our background. So this is our RV, and we travel, obviously, and we travel full-time, and we are in San Luis Obispo, California right now. So just checking out a cool part of California. It's really beautiful here. The weather has been super lovely, so it's a nice time of year and a nice part of the country to be in right now, for sure.
Yeah, cool thing is we just came from the Society for California Archaeology meetings, 2022 edition. First conference we've been to since the pandemic.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of people there. They said they had 200 people signed up the week before it started, and then 500 showed up.
Yeah, because people were worried about Omicron and just pandemic and all of that, and just not sure if they were going to feel safe enough to go to a conference. And the conference did a really good job of making sure that everybody was either vaccine or negative test screened before allowing you in. And then, there wasn't a whole lot of mask use at the actual conference, but it was like a use your mask if you want to kind of a situation. And
nobody was shamed for wearing a mask.
No, not at all. No, it felt fine to me. I mean, we were in big rooms, big open spaces, and it was
We'll
good.
see in another 6 or 7 days. So
probably more like 3 or 4.
3 or 4 days.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. It was. It was like a few days ago. Yeah.
It was. Yeah.
So, and we were working the WildNote booth while we were there. As some listeners to the other podcasts that we have know, I've worked with WildNote for about the past 5 years now. And Rachel officially works. I still consult, but Rachel officially works for WildNote as customer service. So if you're in archaeology and you have any sort of support issues or want to ask questions, chances are you're going to talk to her.
Yep, that's me.
And that's one of the reasons we're here too. Not only is San Luis Obispo a pretty cool place, but WildNote's mostly based here. It's a lot of remote working people, but they're all remote working from around right here. So so we're here just to have fun and hang out with the crew. So I think some of them might be on this call right now if they have the ability to chat
totally in. Yeah, one of the reasons we're parked where we are at specifically is because of one of our awesome coworkers who has a cool place that we can park and space for the RV and the hookups and all that stuff. So that is really nice.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep.
All right. Well, as we go through this, one of the segments, and I'm checking off things over here because this is brand new for us. The first segment we're going to do before we get to the interview is what's happened on the APN for the last 2 weeks. Because while I'm setting that up, this podcast, this video show, this variety show is going to happen every 2 weeks as of right now.
Yeah.
And we may change that frequency later on to be less or more. Who knows?
We'll see.
We'll see what that looks like.
Yeah.
And then we'll, see how it goes.
Yeah.
So.
But because there's a 2-week chunk of time in between when we're recording, there's been a lot of podcasts that have come out.
Yeah.
So for this first one, we'll just give you the last 2 weeks. Obviously, we didn't have a previous episode, but we'll give you the last 2 weeks chunk of time of what has come out and what you might want to listen to.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep.
So up on your screen right now is the main homepage for the Archaeology Podcast Network. You can find it at archaeologypodcastnetwork.com or archpodnet.com. And we got a pretty cool player right on the main feed. I'm not sure if you know this exists, but 2 things I want to point out. One, this search bar. I use that all the time to find podcasts about topics, about things we want to talk about. We've got almost 4,000 recorded episodes over the last 9+ years of content. And there's a lot of things in there. So this player actually shows you what's called our all shows feed. So what it effectively shows you on the front screen here is everything that's come out ever in the order that it comes out. And there's lots and lots and lots of stuff in here. So we're just going to talk about a few of these, just take a few minutes to do that. And then we'll bring on Carlton for our interview.
Yeah. We're not in screen. Do you want to push the camera back or?
Oh,
because it's split screen with your screen share right now.
Oh, mine is not split screen.
Oh, really? Mine is. I'm logged in just so that...
Now, there might be some camera controls you guys have. You might be able to click on the share screen and enlarge that.
Maybe.
I'm not sure. But yeah, why don't you go ahead and move that back while I start talking about these. Yeah, we might actually hook up 2 cameras next time.
Yeah.
But for this first time, we just did this first camera. So we'll see how that works. It's a lot to manage. We may need a volunteer to come on and actually produce this for us and switch cameras. So.
Oh, I guess I pointed it directly at you. Awesome.
I know. So, yeah, Amy says the share screen is giant and we are tiny in the corner. That's how it looks on mine.
Oh, weird.
Maybe if you're on an iPad, it's different.
Oh, I am on an iPad.
Yeah, because I'm on my computer. So.
Okay, good to know. Well,
anyway, let's look at some of the episodes that have come out. First off, a little bit of navigation on the homepage here. You can click on any one of these podcast icons, and these are mostly shows. I got to do a little bit of updating here, but these are mostly shows that are live. And if you click on one of these, it takes you to their page and the most recent show that they've put out. But I'm just going to stay right here and talk about the last few shows that have been out. So we've got one that just came out today, actually, a new CRM field school. That's a cultural resource management based field school happening in Illinois. That's really cool. We talked to the director of that, who's also the director for the Center for American Archaeology, which is a pretty cool place. Something that I really got a lot out of this next episode from the Life in Ruins podcast that just came out on Monday, and it's an analysis of the Hopewell airburst event hypothesis. Basically, saying, there's a paper that came out that said the Hopewell culture and other cultures around it were possibly destroyed, reorganized, however you want to look at that, because of some sort of airburst event, whether it was like a comet or something that blew up in the air. And these authors of the paper think that they have proof around that. And these guys talk about it with their guest, Shane Miller.
Cool.
Yeah. And then more mound builder stuff, ironically. And the myth of the mound builders, that's a pretty interesting topic, actually, themselves, from the Dirt podcast this month. And then Rachel and I did a news episode for TAS. Why don't you talk about that?
Yeah, we talked about some ancient ear surgery, or some evidence of ancient ear surgery.
5,000 years old.
Yeah. And then I actually can't read it on my screen. What was
Roman mosaics.
Oh, right. The mosaic floor.
Yeah.
And then...
the oldest pants ever.
Yes, oldest pants. Oh, man. I loved that article. It was like... It was all about old cloth, and then cloth that was sewn into pants, and those pants are the first pair of pants, probably. Well, first pair of pants that we have found. So I thought that was really cool. And obviously I get very into textile stuff because that's like my favorite thing. So, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. And then we have a rock art episode, Reflections on Rock Art, with Dr. Chester Levash is how you pronounce his name. That was a fun episode.
Yep.
This other one, too, from the Archaeotech podcast, Paul and I talked about a paper that referenced automated archaeological feature detection using deep learning on optical UAV imagery. And basically, it's feeding an AI system all these images, drone images of features, and eventually being able to just fly a drone over, have it recognize and catalog archaeological features, and tell archaeologists, hey, go dig here, go dig here, go dig here.
Oh, so you can like ground truth it, but it's like a starting point. That's cool.
For sure. Looks like your mom's on. She says hi.
Oh, hi, Mom.
So there was a bonus Heritage Voices episode that was normally produced once a month. This is a crossover from the Sapiens podcast, which is kind of huge.
Yeah, that's cool
for everybody, because that's a big podcast. Animals, Archaeoanimals had one on contemporary zooarchaeology, which is cool. It's like they basically said, what's in your trash bin? Thinking about what actually preserves in the archaeological record and what doesn't, like chicken bones and stuff like that.
That's really interesting, because like trash or middens are really important to archaeological excavations because we find a lot of stuff there. So looking at it from a more modern perspective is really neat.
Well, and like the example of like 100 years ago or 150 years ago or more, if somebody ate a lot of beef, there'd probably be a lot of cow parts out surrounded around here. But if you eat a lot of beef today, unless it's a T-bone, there's no evidence of it.
Yeah.
Not in your trash.
True.
Yeah, because there's no bones.
Yep.
The rest of it doesn't preserve.
Although there's probably like a container from the grocery store. So maybe that would...
a styrofoam container.
Yeah, that's like still there.
You can do some DNA on the blood in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, gross.
Yeah.
We're into the week before, so Dirt had a classic episode, although I don't think it's played on the APM before because they joined us about 50 episodes in.
Yeah, that one was a bonus episode, I think, right?
Yeah. So that's on dog detectives, basically dogs that go out and help find, buried remains and things like that. The Ruins have done a little series on science communicators of TikTok. There's actually some really good science communication happening on TikTok, and some of these people have put out videos that get millions of views.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's awesome. That public outreach for science is great.
And then we talked about Neanderthals and Homo sapiens in Europe as a focus episode.
Everybody's favorite topic.
Fun. So there's a lot more we could cover. That's basically the last 2 weeks on the APN. If you ever want to see, more of what we're doing over there, then, go check it out. So.
Yeah, the homepage will get you right to all the most recent stuff. So that's a good place to start.
Exactly.
Yep.
Okay, so now I'm going to figure out how to close this share screen. There we go. You can bring the camera. Actually, leave the camera out there.
Okay.
Because now we're going to move to our interview segment, and we are going to interview Carlton Gover from the Life in Ruins podcast. It's actually Carlton Shield Chief Gover. I'm going to bring him on right now.
Cool.
Keep in mind, we can bring any one of you on at any moment's notice. Carlton, how's it going?
If you want us to.
Hello. Thank you guys so much for having me on episode 1. I guess it's not surprising to bring someone from Ruins to come test this out and get all the kinks out.
That's right. You guys are our guinea pigs.
100%.
That's right. So why don't you start by...
I can't hear.
You can't hear him?
I can't hear him.
Okay. That's good. All right.
You just go on with the interview, and I'll keep troubleshooting.
Okay, you need to just turn your volume up, I think, because you turned it all the way down. All right, well, we'll figure that out. So, anyway, it looks like everybody else can hear him. And Amy says, love your show, Carlton. Can't wait to hear it.
Thank you, Amy.
I know. So why don't you just tell us, you're a supposed scientist, archaeologist. Why don't you tell us what you're doing?
Yeah, allegedly. So hello, everyone. My name's allegedly. My name is Carlton Shield-Chief-Gover. I'm a PhD candidate in anthropology here at the University of Colorado Boulder. And I'm also a postdoc at the Denver Museum of Nature and Science. So I've started my postdoc before I've had my doc, which has been a very fun experience. And then also a tribal citizen of the Pawnee Nation of Oklahoma. I'm the host of everyone's least favorite host of the Life and Ruins podcast. And I'm also the host. Yes. And then that's probably why. But then also the host of Site Bites, which we're actually working on getting season 2 out. And it's looking like it's going to be sponsored by the Plains Anthropological Society. And wow. Yeah, we're actually pretty excited with the movement that will be coming soon in season 2 on the sites across the Great Plains through time. And we have so far maybe 16 episodes lined up from various people all over, from Paleo-Indian to Contact. So really, it's season 2 looks like it's going to be a survey course of the plains. So
what is the focus of the season? Is it just plains and significant sites in the plains throughout time? There's no time period or anything?
Yeah, actually. So, season 1 was focused on Chaco. And for season 2, we felt like we wanted to kind of survey an entire region. So we're going to be hitting major sites that demonstrate human behavior across the Great Plains, and with a lot of indigenous voices in there, and really kind of advocating for more people to work in plains archaeology, because it's getting a little top heavy, and we could really use some new researchers because it is such an amazing archaeological record that is woefully understudied.
All right. And it sounds like we're getting a little bit of an echo. I was trying to hold my headphones out, but it was going through the microphone for Rachel. We'll figure out why she can't hear you,
right. You can,
on the next one.
You're good with interviews, so you can.
Yeah. So Rachel will just sit there and nod like she just agrees with everything I say. Let's just assume that.
Oh, sure. Always agreeing with you. That's truth.
Yeah. So that's really cool. I love that focus. You're also teaching, and like you said, you're getting you're a PhD candidate. In fact, you're teaching pretty much right after this. What kind of courses are you teaching?
So I am teaching our Intro to Archaeology course here at CU Boulder. It's called Archaeology of Human History, and it starts from ancestral hominids up to today. So big survey course. And today we're actually talking about science communication. So I'm actually going to have my students look for on their own science communicators, talk about their content, what works, what doesn't, and have them create posts on them by themselves.
I think each one of them should just become members of the Archaeology Podcast Network as an exercise. I'm just saying. So,
the amount I push forward, for one of my classes on pseudo-archaeology, I actually took clips from Bernie Taylor's episode and chopped them up and had them analyze Bernie Taylor's arguments, and cross-check it with the 4 tactics of pseudo-archaeology. In my students' part, actually, we have an assignment on Cerruti. And our episode is part of that, where they have to listen to different sources on it. So I put a lot of Archaeology Podcast Network stuff actually in my courses as supplementary material, just because some of my students actually really enjoy it, the podcast format. So
nice. All right. Well, let's talk about your podcast, because you guys are... you're approaching episode 100, which we'll talk about a little bit. But, I think it was 2019 or something like that you actually started the show. You approached me because I don't know if you'd heard of the APN before this or not, but you were actually a guest on the Heritage Voices podcast. So what prompted you to want to start your own podcast with David and Connor?
Absolutely. So, I was a guest for Heritage Voices, and I'd always wanted to do an archaeology podcast. And so I talked to Jessica after the episode on how she gets it all done, and she referred me to you. And so that's when we started communicating. And I originally, the original theme was basically, I was going to call it Inebriated Archaeology, and it was going to basically be a drunk history podcast, but for archaeology. Yeah. And no one really bought that. Anyone I approached, they're like, I'm not getting drunk and then talking about this stuff. And so it was really working with you in figuring out a tone. And then I reached out to David because he had just started his science communication journey. And it was David's idea to bring in Connor because Connor had graduated and was looking something to do outside of work. And so that's how kind of that whole process started. And we started off as, one episode a month. And then that quickly became 2 episodes. And then, now we're weekly.
Exactly. And wait a minute, I got to clarify something. So Connor is sober during the episodes?
Yes, he is. Actually, he is very much sober. It depends on the guests we have. If Shane or Jesse are on the show, then maybe we've been drinking a little bit, but generally we are rather sober when we record those. Because you guys can vouch for it. When you have people that you don't know, especially professionals, like you want to come off as professional as much as possible. Yeah. And like Tristan actually gave us some really good advice. It's like when you're podcasting, you have to look at it as you're inviting someone into your home, and you have to make them comfortable, because this is your space and you're welcoming them into it. So, you want to being drunk doesn't necessarily help that welcoming feeling at times.
Depends on who you're welcoming in, I guess.
Yes. Maybe we should have been drinking for Bernie Taylor's episode.
Maybe. Yeah. I think there might have been a few drinking games made around that episode, but either way, every time Bernie didn't answer a question, he just told you about things he's done. That's probably, take a drink. Mm-hmm. So your 100th episode is coming up. You guys, like you mentioned, you guys have had an amazing evolution. You started every 2 weeks. Now you're weekly. And running a couple weekly podcasts, I can tell you sometimes it's a little tight and you're like, we're going to get an episode out this week. And then sometimes, like, you guys are well ahead of the curve right now. I think you've recorded out to episode 103 or 104 right now, which is pretty awesome. And, having that backlog is a comforting feeling in podcasting, but not the 100th.
Someday we'll get there.
We'll get there, yeah. But not the 100th episode. That one is being recorded 2 days before it will release on the feed because it's live. And this is your first live show that we're doing in the APN. It's actually the reason this show is existing right now. One of the reasons it's happening now is because I've wanted to reignite our Crowdcast account. We did a little conference a couple years ago. We did a few other events since then. And I wanted to focus on more live events for the APN. And actually, you guys prompted me to reignite this account. And with what we're paying for this thing, I'm like, we better damn well use it. So, we've started this show that's going to be every 2 weeks. And I'm hoping, kicking off with your guys' 100th episode, that we can have like a rotating schedule of podcasts that are live every month. I'd love to go more frequently if some shows are up for it, or some other bespoke live shows. But otherwise, I'm pretty excited to do your live show. Now, the Dirt Podcast has done some live shows, but they're doing it on their own platform. And I'm hoping to bring them into this one so they can be one place to find everything and all of our live content that people can rely on. So tell us about what we can expect at your live show this Saturday at 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 noon.
Absolutely. So we always wanted to do a live show, and we felt episode 100 would be a really good avenue to do that, to celebrate 100 episodes roughly 3 years after we started. And we originally had a completely different format. We had started talking about it. I have to finish my dissertation really soon, and that has really fried my brain. But what ended up happening is Russia invaded Ukraine. And the reason why that's relevant is one of our guests, Simon Radchenko, who's in one of the episode 20s, who I worked with in Ukraine back in 2019, reached out and asked if he could be on the podcast because they really need help. And so we're like, perfect. We're doing a live show. Can you do it? And so our 100th episode, rather celebrating us as a podcast, we wanted to use it to bring support for Ukrainians, archaeologists in particular, and the suffering that's going on there. Just kind of also from an anthropological aspect, I didn't know anything about Ukrainians going into Ukraine. I thought they were just like Russia light, and that's not the case 100%.
Like the Canada of Russia.
Exactly. And it's just not not true.
That's like burn to Canadians.
Yeah. And so, we're going to have, Simon on just to talk about Ukrainian culture, what's happening and how we can best support it. So we're hoping for an hour-long show this Sunday, and we'll be able to field questions from the audience to ask Simon. And it looks like we'll have, when we had started this, he was in Western Ukraine and couldn't get out. And through miracles, he'll be in Italy the day of the episode recording. So we'll be able to have him with good internet. And that's basically awesome. Just after he had gotten out of the country, because he's a PhD student at the University of Turin. And so he's still well within it. The school that he works with is in Zaporizhia, where, if people are following the news, that's where the largest nuclear power plant of Ukraine of Europe is, and possibly leaking. He's from Kyiv, and then a lot of our other colleagues are from Odessa. So these really three major centerpieces of what's happening in that country. And it's been, I've been keeping contacts with my colleagues and researchers in Ukraine for the past 2 weeks, and it has definitely been stressful. So we're hoping to use our platform to highlight Ukraine, highlight their struggle, and get support in any means we can for those folks.
Absolutely. Well,
that's awesome.
Yeah, anything obviously we can do to help promote resources and things to help everybody over there is, of course, something we're happy to do. So looking forward to that live show. Yeah. All right. Well, we are wrapping up here real quick. Does anybody have any questions for Carlton while I'm getting ready for our next segment? Type them into the chat or into the Ask a Question right now. Probably not, because he's an open book on his podcast, so everybody knows everything.
Yeah, I'm pretty liberal with what I do, what I know, who I am.
I know. We met one of our, I call her a super fan, but Amy W, who's in here in the chat, we met her at the SCA conference, had dinner with her. She came over to our RV and was part of a live show that Richie Cruz and I do every once in a while, every time Richie and I are in the same space. And I got to say, Amy, it was interesting talking to her, because I'd be like, oh, yeah, I used to do that. She's like, I know, you talked about it on a podcast. Like, yeah, and then I used to do it. No, I know, and you talked about it on a podcast.
Yeah.
All right, so
like, if anybody wants to find anything out about us, it's just go listen to a few episodes and you learn everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, we won't be at the SAAs this year. Neither me, Connor, or David. We're skipping this one. Maybe next year, though.
I don't think. Yeah, we're not going either, right? Isn't it soon?
Yeah, it's in 2 weeks. I'm going to Cancun. I'm taking a vacation. I'm out. I'm going to be in Tulum and seeing Maya ruins and letting everyone freeze to death in Chicago.
Do it. We went to Chichen Itza when we went to Cancun, and it was so worth it. It was such a cool sight to see.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And we're actually headed back to Cabo San Lucas at the end of April, because we liked it down there so much. And I'm hoping to be able to see, we're going to be there 2 weeks. I'm hoping to see some archaeology and some real history down there. That'll be pretty cool.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
Introducing Zaxby's new chicken finger tacos. One with pico and creamy chipotle ranch, and the other with bacon and avocado ranch. Chicken expert since 1990. Taco expert since now. Woo, saucy! Zaxby's.
Chicken tacos should only be trusted to chicken professionals.
That's where we come in. Introducing Zaxby's new chicken finger tacos. One comes with pico de gallo and creamy chipotle ranch. And the other comes with bacon, lettuce, tomato, and avocado ranch. Chicken expert since 1990. Chicken taco expert since now. Order yours today in the Zax Rewards app. Woo, saucy! Zaxby's.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and play our game. Now,
I'm so excited.
Absolutely.
I know. So the way this is going to work is I'm basically going to read 3 news headlines, which I'm going to drop in the poll here. I've got them ready to go. I'm not going to do it just yet. You can vote on which one you think is fake, and we'll see what the overall audience idea is. But I also want everybody watching this. I almost said listening, ignoring myself. It's actually watching and listening if you're on the podcast.
Yeah.
But everyone watching has the opportunity just to do 1, 2, or 3 based on how they show up in the poll here. Whoever gets the answer right first in the chat we will, and not in the poll. The poll, I just want to see the overall answers because I can't tell who answered in the poll. But in the chat, whoever gets the answer first, next time in 2 weeks, we'll be able to come on. So I'll be doing these, and you will play the game with Rachel, whatever guest we have, because we actually haven't lined up a guest yet, and you. So 3 of you will be able to play this game. So,
but it's aliens or
I call it archaeology or aliens.
Archaeology or aliens.
Yeah. It's loosely based on another podcast that we listen to where they do like science or fiction. They basically read 3 news headlines and you decide which one is the fake. Well, this is going to be the same thing. I'm going to read 3 news headlines, no Googling, and you just listen to those and just use your intuition. You can talk it out, and we'll go in order. We'll have Carlton go first since he's the guest, and then Rachel, and then just tell me which one you think is the fake item. So here we go. I'm going to put it into the poll here. So open up the poll if you want to see what they are. I'm going to read them out loud right now while you guys read them to yourselves as well, and then we'll get Carlton to do it. So the first headline is, the world's oldest city is now some 4,000 years older than the pyramids in Egypt, basically older than we thought, and it was discovered by spy satellites. The 30,000-year-old Venus of Willendorf's origins have been solved and found to be a meteorite from outside our solar system. 40,000 years ago, Homo sapiens were processing ochre in China much earlier than previously thought. All right, so Carlton, it's all you. You can talk these out or just answer if you want and tell me which one you think is fake.
I think the Venus of Willendorf is fake.
Okay. You don't think it could be a meteorite from outside the solar system? Amy thinks so as well. Yeah. All right. You sticking with that answer?
I'm going to stick. That's my final answer, Alec.
Rachel?
Okay, so this is really dangerous, but I recently read something about the Venus of Willendorf and a meteorite, but I don't really remember if it was saying that it was made out of the meteorite. I don't know, but I did read something about it, so I'm going to say that one is archaeology.
Okay.
And then the third one, again, I feel like I read something. We read a lot of archaeology news stories for TAS, so I feel like I read that one too. Okay, so I'm going to say that the first one is the aliens. First one is aliens. Aliens,
not archaeology. All right. Yeah. Well, the audience, Amy says spy satellite seems too easy to pick. But somebody did pick spy satellite.
That was me. I just did that.
Okay. There's 4 votes, and 3 of them are for the Venus of Willendorf. So I am going to give you guys some details, and I'm going to do, since there's now
more votes coming
there's
in.
now 5 votes for that one. I'll do that one last.
Oh man, am I going to be wrong?
Yeah,
I probably am.
So
dangerous information leading.
We need to actually track the score here. Yeah,
we do.
Going on. So
I'll take a screenshot.
I know, right? Okay, so the actual headline from the spy satellite one is Archaeology Breakthrough After Spy Satellite Images Unveiled World's First City. So basically what this was, it was a program called the Corona Program, which is aptly named given everything that's going on right now. But anyway, there was a series of American spy satellites that were used for photo surveillance of the Soviet Union, China, and other areas, clearly, as we're going to find out in a minute, beginning in the late 50s and ending in the early 70s. So by 1995, there were a lot of images, over 860,000 images declassified and stored with the U.S. Geological Society that date from 1960 to 1972. A Dr. Jesse Kasana has been looking at photos from the Middle East, and during that time, after that time, the Middle East has gone through a lot of heavy industrialization. There's been a lot more going on in the last 50 years in the Middle East. But at that time, there was a lot of places still open, but not a lot of people working there. And he found in his studies over 10,000 undocumented archaeological sites.
Wow.
Yeah. So the city.
So you're saying I'm wrong then, is what you're saying?
Well, this one it's archaeology. I should have led with that. So he discovered an ancient city called Tel Brak, and this is some cool information about it. Tel Brak started as a small settlement in the 7th millennium BCE. And even earlier, as a hunter-gatherer base, they've got evidence of, going back almost 10,000 years at this one location. But 7th millennium BCE, it was a small settlement. By the 4th millennium BCE, it was one of the biggest cities in Upper Mesopotamia. It was an urban hub and bigger than some of the better known cities in southern Mesopotamia. By 2600 BC, it was called Nagar and was the capital of the region. So, and this all happened in the heart of the Fertile Crescent, which the Life in Ruins podcast is famous for hating archaeology. And this is pretty much the people that started it. So I don't know what to tell you.
That started with Connor and David. I had nothing to do with that. They roped me into. I study farmers. I love the Neolithic. I'm not.
Yes. Venus as well, Macy here, which is actually a dog, so that's interesting. We happen to know Macy. Venus as well, just didn't want to be the first to say it. Nice. All right, so let me talk about the next one I'll cover. I'll do the last one, and that one is archaeology.
The last one.
The last one. So the Venus is fake.
Venus is the fake.
Venus is fake. Yeah. All right, sure, so I'll go through this pretty quick. The real article for the ochre one is archaeologists discover innovative 40,000-year-old culture in China. Now, it was a site called, I'm going to get this wrong, Xiamabei. So probably Jamabe or something like that. I know the X is probably a J sound, but I'm not really sure.
Apparently, you're notorious for your mispronunciations, so just go with that.
That's true. Anyway, it's in northern China, and it basically revealed the presence of innovative behavior and unique toolkits. I guess two of the big things. I'll just paraphrase the article here: ochre processing and different kinds of ochre. They were basically grinding it and pounding and processing it to get different shades of red. That's what you get from ochre, and they were doing stuff with that. And you can see the chunks of ochre, and you can see ochre staining in like the floors where they were living.
Very cool.
Yeah, and this was 10,000-15,000 years earlier in that area than they thought, because this is 40,000 years ago, and it was Homo sapiens, and they didn't even know. Like, Homo sapiens just came to that part of Asia by 40,000 years ago.
Yeah,
so they were very early. They were already doing all this stuff. And then the other big thing that was about 15,000 years earlier than they thought, about 11,000 years, was microblade technology. So that's really small lithic technology, and some as little as 20 millimeters long. And that kind of technology was ubiquitous by 29,000 years ago, but not at 40,000 years ago. So these guys were doing a lot of cool stuff earlier than we ever thought they were.
All right, get to the other one.
Right.
I know I read this story and
so this one is wrong. This one I actually want to save this article for the Archaeotech podcast. The original article title is "Origins of the 30,000-Year-Old Venus of Willendorf Solved." So basically, if you don't know what this is, it's a 4.4-inch Venus figurine. Venus figurines are kind of they're more fertile kind of figurines representing fertility. They're like women with curvy big hips and big curvy breasts and just like these look up Venus of Willendorf. Was found in 1908 at a Paleolithic site near Willendorf in Lower Austria, and a study published by the University of Vienna just recently used high resolution tomography, which is basically mapping if you will, but really close high-end mapping, to look at these sediments, basically, that the sample that the Venus is made of. Okay. They don't want to cut into it. They don't want to break pieces off of it. It's small. So they use this non-destructive technique. They found that it had sediments deposited in the rocks at different densities and sizes. Some were small remnants of shells, and 6 of these little grains were larger grains called limonite. And limonite is actually these shells. You can see pieces of like half moon shape of it broken off in the exterior of the body, which they say when the carver made it probably broke off these pieces. There was a 2.5 millimeter shell remnant that dated it to the Jurassic period. That rock deposit anyway.
Rock did, yeah.
And by using that information, there's no like exposed Jurassic settlements in that area. They're Miocene, which is much later, and in Vienna. And this basically put it in northern Italy. They looked at samples from all around Europe and correlated these types of densities in rocks, and northern Italy is where it happened. But a close second was Ukraine. 1,600 kilometers from Vienna, Ukraine, much further than northern Italy is from Austria. And that's really interesting. I wasn't even looking for something like this when I found it. And it's just as a coincidence that like number 2 in contention is Ukraine. They're pretty sure it's northern Italy, but they thought they would mention Ukraine because it was a really close second. So
I found one in Ukraine.
Right.
Yeah.
You found a Venus figurine?
So they don't call them Venus figurines. Like Venus figurines are a very particular set. But yeah, we found one in this like LBK site. That's like the easternmost LBK site, happens to be in Ukraine, the first that I worked at. And we pulled one out, and it was like really cool to actually see one and have it in my hand. That was pretty dope.
Nice.
That's
nice.
Cool.
That's cool. All right, so in our first game, the guest is got 1 and Rachel has 0. And
oh man,
Amy was the first to say Venus of Willendorf. So Amy, if you're on in 2 weeks, you're coming on screen and you're answering with Rachel and the guest. So
you're playing the game.
Yourself for that.
Yeah,
that's right.
If you want to, no obligation.
No, she's required actually.
Yeah, I'm about to say like if you answer, that's a written agreement. You want?
Well, I pretty much know where she lives now, so we'll just go there and film from her house, and she'll have no choice. So, yeah.
Oh man!
All right. Well, Carlton, thanks for being our first guest on the live version of the Archaeology Variety Show.
Yeah,
and
that's awesome.
Tell your friends. Hope you had fun. And
yeah, man, this was great. This was fun.
Yeah. All right. Well,
good test run for you for Saturday too, right?
Yes. Yes. And I imagine that will be a little bit more of a garbage fire than this has been. This has been great. And then getting psyched up for Saturday morning.
Well, you guys will have somebody to run your back end, because that's what I'll be doing. I'll be producing on the back end and monitoring your comments for you. So we need that for this show, because it's tough to do all of this stuff and then keep it going. So
when I'm done with the disc, man, you guys hit me up.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I was just saying, it turns out my audio issue was just my AirPods had disconnected.
Oh, they do that all the time.
Thanks for that, AirPods.
Exactly.
That's great.
All right, Carlton, I'm going to kill your video. You're welcome to hang out until your class, or as long as you want. If anybody has any questions, feel free to hit Carlton up while he's still here. Thanks, Carlton. And
thank you guys. You guys enjoy the rest of your evening. Yeah.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Later.
Bye.
Introducing Zaxby's new chicken finger tacos. One with pico and creamy chipotle ranch, and the other with bacon and avocado ranch. Chicken expert since 1990. Taco expert since now. Woo, saucy! Zaxby's.
Chicken tacos should only be trusted to chicken professionals.
That's where we come in. Introducing Zaxby's new chicken finger tacos. One comes with pico de gallo and creamy chipotle ranch. And the other comes with bacon, lettuce, tomato, and avocado ranch. Chicken expert since 1990. Chicken taco expert since now. Order yours today in the Zax Rewards app. Woo, saucy! Zaxby's.
Okay. What's next, Rachel?
Well, next we're going to talk about some pop culture archaeology.
Yes.
Can you guys see me? Am I on the screen?
Yeah, you're on the screen.
Okay.
Yep, I can see you.
You're not. It's just weird on the iPad, I think. Like, I'm not getting a full screen.
If you see a little square icon when you hover over the video, you can click that and it'll spread you out through the whole screen. But I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah, well, I can't do that because I'm looking at my notes.
Oh, yeah, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, anyway. So real quick, I've been pushing Rachel hard to make this a brand new podcast. And since we don't really have the bandwidth for that, like a whole show in itself, pop culture archaeology.
So instead, I'd agreed to do a live show, which is a whole new show as well.
Yes.
I don't know. I'm crazy. I'm married to somebody crazy. All of that.
I know. We decided to do this show about a week and a half ago, and now we're doing it. So
yeah, I mean, ideas about doing this kind of thing have been floating around for a while.
Mm-hmm.
But, it just made sense at this time to get something like this going. So, yeah.
All right. So pop culture archaeology. I can't even say that. Pop culture archaeology. Okay.
So we're jumping into this topic with a bang. And the first thing that we are going to talk about is Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah, not just Indiana Jones.
No.
But Indiana Jones.
That movie specifically, because I'm telling you, there is a lot to talk about with all of the movies. All of them.
Yeah.
And it's not all good. But there's a lot. So the reason we're starting with this, though, is in part because on the Archaeology show, we did mention that we were planning on talking about the Indiana Jones movies at some time. And this is the time. This is when it's happening.
Wait, what time?
This time right here, right now.
This time right now. Okay.
Yes. So
I'm reminded of Spaceballs. Well, when that was then, but this is now.
Right.
But when was now? Just then.
Man, I thought by giving you a pop culture section, you would stop quoting other things in our shows. But instead, you're just finding other things to quote.
More fuel for the fire.
Oh my God. Okay, so starting with why I chose this and what, like, I want to just, like, talk about the overall significance of Indiana Jones to archaeology, right? And obviously, anybody in, like, Gen X generation and even into millennial generation to some extent, and probably even, like, older boomers, too, like, Indiana Jones had a huge effect on us when it came out, right? Came out in 1981, and it was just this really awesome portrayal of an archaeologist doing really cool things, or at least that is how the general public sort of viewed it, right? And I don't want to take that down. I think that was great. I think it got so many people into archaeology, myself included. I think you too as well, right? I mean, you were a kid when you saw that movie. I didn't see it till I was a little bit older, but you, like, probably saw it when it came out, right?
Yeah, I made out with one of my first girlfriends during the second one in a dollar theater.
That sounds about right.
When I was like
in
13.
A dollar theater. That makes sense. So yeah, I definitely don't want to, like, tear it down, because I think it has played a very important role in making archaeologists more visible to the public eye. However, there are some things that should be addressed, and that is some of the stereotypes that it also not introduced, because there's been plenty of archaeology throughout the years, and the stereotypes began long before Indiana Jones, but it did help reinforce them. And the first one is the adventurer archaeologist stereotype. That is what Indiana Jones is, and it's what he fits into. And this is the idea that an archaeologist is somebody who goes out on these adventures, artifact hunting, kind of like looting a little bit, a lot of it. And it makes it seem like archaeology is much more about collecting of the things and having fun along the way, rather than the, like, real true science, which is what it is and what it should be viewed as. So that's my, like, overall bone to pick, I guess you could say.
Bone to pick?
Yeah. With Indiana Jones, and that stereotype that it's reinforcing.
And real quick, before we go too far, I put another poll up. I'm having fun with polls. I put another poll up in the polls here that says, did you get interested in archaeology because of Indiana Jones? Either as an interest or profession, doesn't matter, but did you gain your interest because of the movies?
Yeah.
And then let's have your answer in the polls.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So the other thing that we wanted to talk about with Indiana Jones is, once we get the elephant in the room out of the way, right? The whole archaeologists don't do what Indiana Jones does. And they shouldn't, because it's not science. It's looting and it's having fun, I suppose, but it's not science. Moving on, we were really interested in kind of like some of the specific scenes from the movie, the specific cultures that are encountered, the specific sites that they go to, and whether or not they are real places, and how they were treated in the movie as far as, like, from a real perspective, right?
Yeah.
So the opening scene, as everybody remembers, this is South America, 1936, and that's all they say on the screen is South America,
place.
1936. It's a very big place. But, you know, of course, a lot of people on the internet have deep dived all of the different scenes in Indiana Jones. And the consensus is, and also at one point they talk about the Jovitos language. And so we're kind of led to believe that it is the Jovitos tribe in northern Peru, which is supposed to be the descendants of the Chachapoya people. And okay, so we'll take that as our context. We're in the jungles of northern Peru, Chachapoya people.
Yeah.
Great. And they do mention talking in Jovitos in that language. So now that's all fine. And it's a little funky because you're in the jungles, and the Chachapoya people did build, like, structures and temples and things, but they were, like, up in the mountains or up in the hills on the slopes, sort of up above, like, looking down into the jungle, because from a geographical standpoint, I guess you could say, the real dense jungle, like what you see in that opening scene of Indiana Jones, is down by the river, right? It's down there, and then it's clearer up towards the top. So they would have been up above looking down, but, you know, in the movie they're down on the, okay, fine. Like,
Yeah.
Not necessarily true, but we'll go with it. But here's where they start crossing cultures and places and people and things. The golden idol.
Yeah.
The golden idol that Indiana Jones is hunting. First of all, there weren't any gold idols like that. That just wasn't a thing, at least that we have found.
That's
it was
shocking.
not a thing. Are you shocked?
I'm shocked.
You look very shocked.
That's shocked. Yeah.
So what is interesting, though, is that the golden idol, it has that really distinctive face. It's like a person looking up in a wide open mouth, and they look like they're kind of kneeling or something. That is based on the Dumbarton Oaks Aztec birthing figure, which is in a pre-Columbian collection, and it's supposed to be a representation of the Aztec goddess Tlazolteotl. We'll go with that.
That's right.
Sure. I'm sure it's absolutely wrong, but that's fine. We'll go with that. But an Aztec goddess. So we're down in Peru, Chachapoya people, and then we've got some Aztec stuff from up in Mexico getting brought in. So they're crossing their cultures right there.
Yeah.
And then also, this is funny, and I'm not sure the movie makers would have known this, but it turns out that idol that they based it on it was probably a fake. A 19th century fake, so an old fake, probably 150 years old.
So the fake idol for the movie, for the fake culture,
right,
was based on a fake idol.
Was based on a fake idol.
That sounds about
from
right.
the 1800s, yes.
Yeah, that sounds right.
So everything about it is fake. Okay, so there's a context behind that scene and the people, and we'll just take a moment to, think about the fact that he's running through a temple with a giant stone boulder rolling after him and jumping through booby traps and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Because, ancient cultures and ancient peoples definitely had time to set that thing up, set up those kind of traps for looters who were coming to steal their golden idols. But
yeah,
again, adventurer archaeologists, so I guess it's fun to watch. So I guess we can give it a pass. But obviously none of that would have happened. There would be no booby traps like that in a tomb. Not to stop looters anyway.
But what I want to know is this whole theme of booby traps in ancient sites permeates throughout pretty much all of Hollywood. There's always some sort of booby trap, and I wonder if it's based mostly on the early excavations and opening of Tutankhamun's tomb. There was a whole there weren't any booby traps,
ghost things, or
but people were supposedly died in relation to that. Even people who died decades later, it was related back to that somehow, because people were just trying to fit the narrative.
Yeah, totally.
In reality, people just die sometimes.
Yeah,
there's nothing you can do about it.
Right.
So
yeah,
I wonder if that was really romanticized in literature and in news articles and things like that, especially the Tutankhamun's tomb thing. And I think it was Howard Carter was the name I was trying to think of that opened that. Yeah. And I just wonder if that's where that came from, because otherwise, were there actually any sort of traps that, probably wooden element to them or string or something like that and wouldn't have lasted the test of time anyway? But did any ancient cultures actually,
they did
booby trap their stuff?
I'm not sure about booby traps. I think that you see evidence of them trying really hard to protect it. Like you see in the Egyptian pyramids where there's hallways that end, not hallways, that's not the right word, but passages that end randomly, fake walls, fake doors, stuff like that to lead people astray. So hopefully they won't get to the actual chamber, but I don't think that anybody set up poison darts to come at the wall when the light strikes a certain position.
Right.
and stuff like that. It just isn't that elaborate. It couldn't be. It was more protection rather than booby trap. So, that was the first opening scene. And we've got so much to talk about already just from the first opening scene.
I'm telling you, this is an entire podcast.
I know, it really is. Yeah. So just really quickly, we'll talk about a couple of the other sort of tropes that we encounter in this movie. You have the archaeologist villain. That would be Rene Belloc, and he's the French guy who's trying to steal the stuff before Indiana Jones does.
He's basically Indiana Jones, though.
He is, because he's
just the bad version.
Yeah, he's the bad version, but he almost makes Indiana Jones look more like the looter sometimes, because he's the one who knows the culture and the people that they're trying to find artifacts from. So he's more connected to those people than Indiana Jones ever is. So it's almost like he does a little bit better job sometimes, but maybe he's just better at looting and being bad. I don't know. That's a tough one. But interestingly, we were wondering if Nazis were super interested in ancient artifacts the way that the movies portray them as in this one and also in Last Crusade. And it does seem like they were interested, although their interest was more from a proving that Germans are the Aryan race kind of a perspective, not so much of a finding out about ancient cultures perspective. Okay. So that's the biggest connection I have found so far between Nazis and archaeologists and artifacts and stuff like that. So anyway, after that opening scene and all that stuff, Indiana Jones goes back home, and he is basically the Ark adventure begins from there. There's all the series of events falls into place, and he's heading out to find the Ark. And the first stop is in that's where he needs to get the headpiece of the Staff of Ra from his
sounds fancy
ex-girlfriend who has it there for some reason from a previous looting event, I would imagine.
Because her father basically looted it.
Right, her father looted it. Yeah. So more looting. Looting is a theme in these movies. Yeah. He then goes to Cairo with the girlfriend to, who was her name? Marianne? Yeah. Marianne. Your favorite character. Marianne. Your favorite character, right? So he goes to Cairo with her, and the idea is that they have to find the city of Tanis, which is where the Ark should be, and they can use the Staff of Ra to find this location. Or I think it's actually the Well of Souls within the city of Tanis.
Well, the city of Tanis is a real place.
Yes.
And that had a map room where you use the staff with the headpiece on top of it. The headpiece tells you how long the staff is supposed to be, and the light hits it at a certain time and shines on a...
This is the movie plot.
This is the whole movie plot, And then that's supposed to tell you where the Well of the Souls is. Right. Where the Ark is presumably laying.
Right. Yeah, so basically all we can say here is that Tanis exists. It was an ancient Egyptian city. I think it was 19th to 20th dynasty, which is somewhere in the 3000 to 2000 BCE time period. So very old city, but we've known about it forever. Since the late Napoleon first went there in the late 1700s, and then other excavators came in the 1800s, and it has been excavated throughout time, many times by different archaeologists from different places. It's well documented and well excavated. There are no secret hidden rooms underneath it.
That we know of.
That are somehow not full of sand and debris. And
they wouldn't be secret if we knew about them.
And snakes. There's definitely not a secret room with snakes. So all of that is completely made up. The city, as it is well documented as an ancient city. And there are there were sphinxes that were found there and some fallen over columns and some really cool structural stuff, but nothing on the level of what they're seeing in the movie. That's all totally made up.
One of the things they say in the movie is that, when the Ark was when the Ark was brought there, for whatever reason, I don't remember if they specified in the movie, but Tanis was consumed by the desert, by the wrath of God.
Yeah.
Basically to hide the Ark, right? Yeah. So God killed 10,000 people in order to hide the Ark, So.
And didn't even really fill it up completely because
in the movie he did. So then they're excavating.
I'm very bothered by this open cavern under the ground that is not full of dirt and debris.
But that happens all the time, actually.
Not like that.
Well, yeah, actually, depending on how well they're sealed up, you see Egyptian excavations all the time where they open this thing and all of a sudden they're in it.
Yes. Not to this extent, though, but yes.
I mean, obviously, there was some artistic license taken by the producers. But,
obviously.
Yeah. I'm just wondering, was Tanis ever buried by the sand like this? In its whole history.
It's it's typical burial. It's typical for what you see for an archaeological site.
A typical site in the desert.
Yeah, a typical site in the desert. And from the pictures, it was hard to get information about the excavations themselves, since most of them took place in the 1800s and early 1900s. But just from looking at the pictures and stuff, it's a typical desert site with, your hard-packed sandy soils that you have to scrape away, shovel, trowel, whatever you're using, and that kind of thing. So it's not like you can just sort of brush it away and voila, ancient city.
So what are our takeaways from Indiana Jones Raiders of the Lost Ark?
Yeah, our takeaways are... keep in mind that he is an example of the adventurer archaeologist stereotype, and that archaeology is not like that, and it's much more methodical and slow, and you will never get chased by a boulder.
I mean, I don't know about ever. There's a boulder that fell down on Highway 50 up near Lake Tahoe.
That's
if
true.
you were in front of that.
But it wasn't a perfectly spherical boulder rolling down crafted rails to knock into you.
That would have been aliens for sure.
I would have had to have been. There's no way.
No human could circular a boulder like that and carve one.
Not at that time.
So. That is, if you're paying attention, the second loosely referenced Ghostbusters joke I've made today.
Oh, wow. I didn't even get it.
The first one was in the poll, and the second one was just now, if you're paying attention. I'm sure Amy got it. She got the poll one. All right. So my takeaways from Raiders of the Lost Ark are Nazis weren't hunting relics because they wanted, Christian relics to talk to God like Renee Belloc did.
No, no.
Looters are bad, and so was all the archaeologists pre, 1960.
Oh, that's not quite fair.
Come on, 1950, 1940.
I wouldn't say that. That's painting broad strokes.
Well, they're bad in terms of now, but back then they were just doing what they thought archaeology was.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, there was more and more people were getting into the science behind it and understanding that context is important as well as the things themselves. But Hollywood had not caught up to that mindset by 1981 when this movie came out, for sure. And I'm not sure they have yet, actually, now that I say that.
Okay.
Yeah. So, there you go. Pop culture.
Pop culture.
40-year-old pop culture?
40-year-old, yeah. Whatever.
Still pop culture.
That's right. All right. So we are now going to, and I think I'm not going to move the camera, depending on how wide your screen is and what you're looking on. When I share my screen here in a minute, it's going to truncate it for me, but it might not for you. And to be honest, I realized I don't really care. So we're just going to leave it like that, and we'll come up with a multi-camera system later on. But our next and final segment, aside from a little wrap-up at the end, again, we haven't really planned out how long this show is going to take. We put in the segments we wanted to do. We actually skipped one, and we just thought, let's see how long this goes.
Yeah. And, how long are people interested in hearing us, sit here and talk about archaeology
Not long,
stuff.
I'm sure. So I don't want to go much longer.
Go look and see how many people are still here hanging in for this.
There's actually 10 live right now.
Oh, wow. Thanks for staying, guys.
So anyway, I'm going to share my screen because the next thing we're going to talk about is our site or word of the day. And some of you may not know, but I did a podcast. I guess I ended it probably 2019 or something like that. But I had the idea to do a podcast a day for 365 days. And I ended up doing it for about a year and a half. Yeah. And the only reason I stopped is I just didn't have time to do the research.
It's a mountain of work to do a daily podcast.
I had some really great volunteers that were helping me. We'd come up with topics. They'd write something up. It was scripted, read by me. I wanted to get other readers, but getting them organized was logistically difficult. And sometimes I did little interviews like the one that's up on your screen right now, but that was rare. And it just happened that Ken Fader's book, Ancient America, 50 Archaeology Sites You Should See for Yourself, actually lent itself pretty well to this series. So we used a lot of those for the series. But anyway, if you want to check it out, you can just go to archpodnet.com/arch365, ARCH365, or search any topic you want on the main search page, and probably some of these episodes will come up.
Yeah. I mean, if you did it for a year and a half, there's approximately,
500 episodes, give or take. Yeah. So it's a lot. And it was fun to do, and maybe someday we'll bring it back when we get more time. Hey, when we hit 5,000 active members, we'll have the ability to hire somebody to do this show again.
Okay, there you go.
There you go. Okay, if you're not a member, click the Become a Member below this video. It will take you to our membership page, $7.99 a month for all this bonus content that we're putting out, and membership in our Slack team where you can talk to our hosts and other members, and other stuff coming down the line. We've decided never to raise the price. It's going to be $7.99 a month forever, and you can get 25% off if you join annually. So that's the last sales pitch there.
Yep.
Okay, so I brought this up because you can go listen to this podcast if you want, but basically Rock Eagle Effigy Mound is what I wanted to talk about. So let me bring up my notes here. So this is located in Eatonton, Georgia, and Georgia in the United States, right off U.S. Highway 441. It's difficult to determine, but most people think it was built during the Middle Woodland around 100 to 300 AD. And actually, I'm going to click on this link that's actually in here to see if we can't bring this up. So it literally is what it sounds like. It's an eagle made out of rocks. And the centerpiece here is a mount. Oh, share this tab instead. Okay, let me do that. There we go. It's an eagle made out of rocks.
Oh, cool.
And the center of the eagle's body is actually like mounded over. Oh. And then the rocks kind of distribute out around that. But it clearly does look like an eagle. And eagles have been in this country for a long time in this space. But I'm not 100% that you can say it's an eagle. I mean, it looks like an eagle, but
it definitely looks like it to me, especially like that stylized eagle thing that you do see in Native American rock art and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, who knows?
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. And Mark Silver here says Serpent Mound in southern Ohio is really cool. We've been to Serpent Mound.
We have been to Serpent Mound.
Yeah, there are a lot of mounds in Ohio that are actually really cool. The Hopewell, which we actually mentioned earlier, and a bunch of cool stuff. So, anyway, so this Rock Eagle effigy mound. Let me go back to my notes here. It's I'm going to go back to my other tab. Let me go back to this one. Share this tab instead. Just still getting used to this platform, so bear with me here. Anyway, most people think it was put together during what's called the Middle Woodland period. The eastern United States has a lot of periods referencing the woodland. I'm not really sure who named those or why they decided on that, but
the origins are.
Either way, the time period is about 100 to 300 CE, so Common Era, AD for those that don't know what Common Era means. There's only 2 confirmed stone effigy mounds east of the Mississippi, and the other one's also in Georgia. Yeah, so it's actually not that far away.
Very unique, actually.
Yeah,
to only have 2 of them. That's interesting.
Yeah, because effigy mounds are actually not that uncommon. Effigy just means they're shaped like something.
Yeah.
And effigy, like there's lots of mounds that are just domes, right? But there's Serpent Mound, like Mark mentioned, and there's other mounds shaped like things in this country. But effigy mounds that are shaped like things and made of rocks, there's only 2 of those this side of the Mississippi. There's probably more west of the Mississippi because all I have was rocks. So there you go.
Yeah, material is common.
Right. And a lot of times we call those geoglyphs when they're shapes and things made out of rocks. So anyway, it looks like it could have been the dome was there first, and then this was basically at some point later on, this is pure conjecture, could have been expanded out from the dome, and the dome was like lowered because of that. There was a very small number of artifacts found around it other than the stones, which are all technically artifacts. So we don't know a whole lot about the people who made it. And there's also evidence of cremated human remains found in the mound. Yeah. And interestingly enough, I'll never forget when I heard this term the first time. Cremated human remains are actually called cremains. Yeah, I didn't know that. That's an actual word. Theories for the construction, of course, are burial place because of the cremated remains. And then the archaeological default, a religious center for sending messages to a deity. Now, that link I clicked on said sending messages to God. Of course, the early people of the Middle Woodland didn't know who God was in the sense that we know who, or some people here know who God is. But, and like, what God are you talking about? So it should have said a God technically, but it said God with a capital letter and then no like a in front of it.
Right.
But more than likely it was gods, if anything, right? Because that was more the religion of the time. So anyway, that's pretty much it. That was really cool. Yeah, go check out the Arc 365 site. We're not going to pull everything from there, but I'm going to probably pull a lot of stuff from there.
Yeah, it's a great like snapshot of an archaeological site, and it's not meant to be like super in depth. We're not studying these things, but it's a great overview, of a cool place. And this one in particular is really cool because I never even knew people did stuff like that over there. So that's really neat.
Yeah, links that we've mentioned in this show, everything that we mentioned will be in the show notes for the episode that this is coming out on for the Archaeology show, the audio version of this. So if you're listening to this on the audio version, you can look down and see your links. But moving forward, we're not going to do that anymore. This is just to kind of promote what we have going on here. If you're a member of the Archaeology Podcast Network, you can go to your bonus content page and see this video. And then we'll have show notes for the video there. So all the links and any other notes that we want to put down related to this will all be on your member pages. And again, we're not doing that to, hide content or do anything. They're always going to be free live. Yeah. So if you want to show up live, absolutely, please do that.
Yep.
But the recorded versions to view whenever they want are available to members of the APN and those that support us in what we do.
Yep.
Okay, so just as a reminder, as we're wrapping up here, this show is every 2 weeks. Oh, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat or put them in the Ask a Question thing. We'll do those right at the end, in case there are any questions. You can ask us anything you want.
And suggestions, too. For our pop culture segment, if you have anything in particular you'd love to hear us talk about it, we'd love to hear that. And guests, if you have any ideas on cool people to join us. We're going to start with all the hosts of the EPN shows because we have such an amazing group of people that are making shows. We
want to highlight those.
Yeah, definitely. It's a great place to start for interviews. But if you know of any other people that would be interested, we'd love to hear it. And yeah.
So, and Laura is asking, is that Indiana Jones there with you now?
Yes.
You want to know something about this Indiana Jones right here? He's lost a foot. He's probably 10, 12 years old.
Probably.
Yeah, he's lost a foot. We have the foot.
Oh, you know how old he is? He's as old as the fourth movie. Because when the fourth movie came out, Kingdom of the Crystal Skulls, they were making all the Indiana Jones figurines. And that's when I bought you that for Christmas as a joke. And it's still in our life.
Now it's up there. Usually, Indy, I don't know where he would sit, like on a bookshelf or something in our houses that we'd have. And then at Christmas, this is our tree topper.
It's our tree topper.
But we don't have a Christmas tree anymore because we live in an RV, and that's really hard.
We have a cactus.
That's right, we have a cactus. So Indy sits up here. We have had the microwave fall down. We have had stuff crash over, drawers open when we're driving down the road. This guy never moves.
No.
And he sits right here.
Right there.
Yeah, it's crazy. So this stuff up here, we just put it up there because we needed some kind of background for the video.
Yeah.
That doesn't live up there normally.
That's my knitting stuff.
This is my augmented reality glasses, my virtual reality headset,
oh my God.
and my 30,000 milliamp battery.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Priorities.
Yes, Richie says that figure probably brought you more joy than the fourth movie.
so much more joy.
The fourth movie is my favorite.
Trust me.
Argue with me.
Oh, I will. I will so hard when we talk about it. Just wait for that.
Well, and when we will talk about it will be if we're going to cover these movies in order, maybe.
Yeah.
So this show will come out every 2 weeks. The second episode 2 is already up for sign up. I haven't created a fancy description or banner for it yet, but I figured I'd just duplicate this event and get it ready to go. So you can sign up for that now, and it'll remind you when it's coming up. Don't forget about the Life in Ruins live episode. If you scroll up in the chat, it's coming up on Saturday. This Saturday at 9 a.m. Pacific time, 12 Eastern, 10 Mountain. And that should be really fun. And they're just interviewing a really interesting person, an archaeologist from the Ukraine who just escaped the Ukraine, if you joined us late. And also look for more live episodes from other podcasts. Now, I'm going to share one more tab here. Chrome tab, live events, cultural media. So we created a company basically over the top of the APN. To basically have a place to house other podcast networks in the future, my podcasting business where I help people create podcasts, and then also our live events. And that's the page that you're looking at now. So if you go to Culturo Media, and Culturo is Esperanto for culture, we needed something that wasn't anybody's specific language, wasn't cultural appropriation, and wasn't going to offend anyone. So that's what that is. And the logo, incidentally, we had this designed, and my idea was to include something that represented humanity. And this is our artist's stylized representation of DNA with a futuristic font. So that's, I think she really hit the nail on the head there.
Yeah, it's really cool.
So anyway, if you click on live events, you will see them. I haven't even put the episode 2 up here yet. But this one is here, and this one will actually probably go away here shortly. Probably when we hit 5:30, because it'll no longer be 5:30 Pacific time. And then you can see the other show here right now, the Life in Ruins podcast 100th episode. So keep, I'm not sharing this tab. Man, I got to get used to doing that.
Yeah, I was about to say, I can't see that on my side over here.
Every time I switch, I've got to click share this tab instead. Yeah. So anyway, the this page, like I said, this is where all our live shows will be. So you'll see them in order as they're going to show up, and you can click on the Crowdcast link and go sign up. Crowdcast is always free. There is an iPad app, an iPhone app. You don't have to, be on a computer or something like that, and you can have fun there. So, cool. All right. Well, I think that's the end of the show. Yeah, I think that's it. So we can hang out for a few more minutes. If anybody has any questions, just throw them in the chat. But if not, I think I'm not, because we're going to dinner. It's going to be fun. Is Nancy still on? Is Nancy still in here? Nancy's probably making dinner and getting ready. She was in here for a little while, but we're going to go to dinner at their house. She is still in there. So. Yeah. All right, and thanks, Macy, We appreciate that you liked the show. So, well, thanks everybody for coming to the first episode and sticking around. There's still 9 people in here. Thanks, Mark, and friends and family from around the country.
Yeah, we appreciate it.
It's good to see you guys. Next time you see this come out on Facebook or something like that, share it out so we can get more people. This show is intended to bring archaeology to a wider audience. Mm-hmm. So, and that's what our goal
we're
is.
Going to keep the chat, speaking to all people and not just industry people that are in it. So that's the goal.
Exactly.
Yep.
All right. Well, thanks a lot. Look for this on your member pages for the video. And if you're listening to the audio, again, that's where you can find the video. And again, thanks again. We'll see you next time.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Archaeology Show. Feel free to comment and view the show notes on the website at www.archpodnet.com. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at ArchPodNet. Music for this show is called I Wish You Would Look from the band Sea Hero. Again, thanks for listening and have an awesome day. This episode was produced by Chris Webster from his RV traveling the United States, Tristan Boyle in Scotland, DigTech LLC, Culturo Media, and the Archaeology Podcast Network, and was edited by Chris Webster.
This has been a presentation of the Archaeology Podcast Network. Visit us on the web for show notes and other podcasts at www.archpodnet.com. Contact us at chris@archaeologypodcastnetwork.com.
Introducing Zaxby's new chicken finger tacos. One with pico and creamy chipotle ranch, and the other with bacon and avocado ranch. Chicken expert since 1990. Taco expert since now. Woo, saucy! Zaxby's.
Chicken tacos should only be trusted to chicken professionals.
That's where we come in. Introducing Zaxby's new chicken finger tacos. One comes with pico de gallo and creamy chipotle ranch. And the other comes with bacon, lettuce, tomato, and avocado ranch. Chicken expert since 1990. Chicken taco expert since now. Order yours today in the Zax Rewards app. Woo, saucy! Zaxby's.
.com.